This is about transporting yourself into the future, at least 5 years ahead, maybe 10, maybe even further ahead. And this is about writing the story on that day that email is sent from you about what you've achieved, where your life is today, who you've impacted. And the idea for this concept was born from a mechanism that's used at Amazon with what's called working backwards at Amazon. And that is working backwards from a customer's need, a problem, an opportunity. What does that individual person want? What would make that person's life better, easier, more fun? And then what Amazon do is they dive really deep into that problem and that opportunity and that customer experience, and they create a forward-looking press release of that product. I've adapted this way of thinking to personal goals. So the forward-looking email, the future self email, is you transporting yourself into the future. And the output, the asset, is really, really powerful. I have clients that have written these documents and they've printed them out and they're framed on their desk. They're on the wall. Unlike the brag file, which is very, very private, these are private and unique and individual documents, but people do share them with their spouse, with their closest friends, with their children, with their loved ones, which makes it even more powerful because it's a shared vision in that sense. But this process helps you really get clear. And it's important that the thinking is more important than the asset, more important than the writing. And that's why before you even start walking through the steps, which I describe, we'll talk through, but I also describe in the takeaway, is really think deep about what you want. So you can just start with a blank piece of paper, your notes on your iPhone, your whiteboard, a blackboard and chalk, whatever it is that you can use, just a pen, like anywhere, and just write down what you think is your long-term goal, what you think is a place that you want to get to. And then challenge yourself and say, is that really what I want? What if I put money, put all of these material things to one side? Would I really be happy? Because ultimately that's the goal, isn't it? If we were to summarize this conversation, whether you want to be a brain surgeon, whether you want to be a CTO, whether you want to be a CEO, founder of the next unicorn organization, everyone really wants to be happy. That's
agree.
what we're all aiming towards.
Totally.
And if you challenge that vision, that first big idea, and it passes that test, once you've stepped through that gateway, can you then challenge yourself to say, well, what if I thought even bigger about that very meaningful goal? And then what if I thought bigger again? Like really stretch yourself. Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who's written a number of books with Dan Sullivan, who's he created Strategic Coach. He's got lots of great content, written a lot of great books. He talked about impossible goals. Yep. And that's what I encourage, is think impossible. Because we never actually want to get to the goal. We never want to get to the vision. We always want to be striving towards it. It doesn't matter if it's in the horizon. People get this wrong where they think, well, if the goal's so far in the horizon, I can never get there. So it's demotivating. I might as well not bother. But if you make that agreement with yourself from day one, it's impossible. I will never get there. But the goal is to be on that journey, to always be striving towards that. And you can't lose as long as you're always moving towards it. So if you can really stretch your thinking and your imagination and go deep and think about your dreams, like your wildest, biggest dreams, and have that in mind as you step into the future self email process, that is when it's most impactful.
So your method and the asset that you've brought along for our viewers and listeners to use is what you call the email from your future self, which, as you've described with the Amazon looking back thing, it's something that you write now with a view to reading in the future, looking back, and you will have achieved all of the success. Now, there are 7 steps, and rather than go through each individual step here, what we're going to do is look at the 3 big topics that are in there. And the first one you describe as looking at the accomplishments that you have achieved, the big things that you have achieved in that 5 to 10 year window. Is that right?
Yes, the big milestones across all pillars of your life. That can be professional achievements. That can be, we built a dream home. That could be, I have achieved things from a health and fitness perspective. Potentially, if you use specific examples, the person could be battling with an illness or an issue in their life, and they've overcome that challenge, and they're writing in this vision that I overcame that challenge and I became a stronger person, a more successful person as a result of it. So it's those things that if you only had 5 bullet points, a few minutes to say to somebody, these are the things that in 10 years' time I've achieved and I'm most proud of. That's what we're talking about here.
So you're projecting forward in time, and you're saying, okay, right now I'm in a situation, I've got some stuff, and I'm going to write this email that I will read back to myself in 5 years' time. And when I read that in 5 years' time, it will have all of the things that I've wanted to achieve. And I will look back and go, wow, I did them. Look at the better position that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly it.
Okay.